Workforce and Economic Development. It is Thursday, February 15th, 2024 at 2:07 in the afternoon. We're here to have a walkthrough of H-143. Protections related to the towing and storage of vehicles. So we have with us our legislative counsel. Rick, if you would like to walk us through the bill, that would be great.
All right, Rick Sagel, legislative counsel. Good to see you all. So this is, as the chair said, House Bill 143. It was written last year by one of my colleagues because I wasn't here last year. And so Anthea wrote this, and she's of course leaving. If you all didn't know that, she's leaving my office as of tomorrow, I believe. So we're divvying out certain parts of her portfolio, and I was lucky enough to get towing. I actually took it because this is also consumer protection in my mind. And the way she wrote it is really not in our Title 10 consumer protection. That's something we can talk about if we decide to run with this. So for now, it's in Title 23, which is the transportation title. And it's a new chapter, towing of motor vehicles. And kind of as a background, I think you had Representative Bridgeson in yesterday to talk about this bill. So Vermont has very little towing guidelines. And in fact, this bill may have been the impetus last year for the AG being required to produce a report about towing. So the report was released just a week or so ago, and we got the testimony from Chris Curtis from the AG's office last Friday. So this bill does not reflect what the AG suggested. In fact, many things are not going to line up, and I'll kind of mention that as we go through it. This is going to be, it's a 23-page bill. This is going to do a lot more than the AG wanted or recommended. Also, this is missing some of the things that the AG's report has recommended. So this is going to be more of a pun non-intended vehicle for towing. If you all want to use this as a vehicle, that would be probably what we'd want to do. Okay. So we have here the short title, the Vermont Consumer Protection Towing Act, and the purpose of it is to establish minimum standards for towing and storage services and to promote fair and honest practices in the towing industry. We have a lot of definitions to go through. An automobile club means a legal entity that, in consideration of dues, assessments, or periodic payments of money, promises its members or its subscribers to assist them in matters relating to motor travel or the operation, use, or maintenance of a motor vehicle, including auto dealers and insurance companies, by supplying services, which may include towing service, emergency road service, and indemnification service. So AAA, right, would be an example of an auto club. Dealer has the same meaning as in subdivision 4.8 of this title. We can talk about that if you'd like to. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving on. A drop fee means a charge offered instead of a standard tow fee that allows an owner or operator who arrives on scene prior to a vehicle being towed to stop a tow in its process. So basically, you arrive and you see your car being hitched up. This would be considered a drop fee, where they have to drop it if you pay the fee.
I see you don't include electric vehicles. Is there a more generic term to say about?
Are you referring to automobile club?
Yes.
So those aren't referring to vehicles. Those are referring to organizations that cater to owners of vehicles like AAA. So this could, I don't see it not including electric vehicles. So if you have a Tesla, right, and you have AAA, this would still cover your electric vehicle. Yeah. Emergency towing means the towing of a vehicle due to a motor vehicle crash, mechanical breakdown on a public highway, or other emergency related incident necessitating vehicle removal for public safety with or without the owner's operator's consent. Government agency towing means the towing of a government-owned or government-controlled vehicle by the government agency that owns or controls them. Owner means the person to whom a vehicle is registered or to whom it is leased, if the terms of the lease require the lessee to maintain and repair the vehicle.
Government towing, that be agency towing, could that be also contract between government entity, state police, municipal police with a towing company.
That's my understanding. It could at least, that's actually my default definition. It definitely could include what you suggest. So if we need to refine that, we probably would want to do that. Private property towing means the towing of a vehicle without the owner or operator's consent from private property where it was illegally parked or for which some exigent circumstance necessitated its removal to a nearby location. Rental vehicle company means any person, including a franchisee, in the business of renting vehicles to the public. Seizure towing means the taking of a vehicle for law enforcement purposes, such as the maintenance of the chain of custody of evidence, forfeiture of assets, or unpaid parking tickets. Storage services means storing a towed vehicle at a towing storage lot. Towing company means any corporation, association, sole proprietorship, co-partnership, company, firm, or other aggregation of individuals that exist to provide towing or storage services. A towing company shall not include an automobile club, dealer, or insurance company. Towing services means towing or otherwise moving vehicles by means of a tow truck. Towing or storage services means towing services or storage services or both. Towing storage lot means a property used to store vehicles that have been towed. And finally, tow truck means a motor vehicle equipped to tow or pick up vehicles, including damaged or disabled vehicles. Okay, section 4304, the applicability, rulemaking, and complaints. So applicability, this chapter shall apply to any person engaging in or offering to engage in the business of providing towing or storage services in Vermont. This chapter shall not apply to vehicles towed into Vermont or towed through Vermont, provided that the tow originates in another jurisdiction. Notwithstanding subdivision 1 of the subsection, this chapter shall not apply to towing and storage services by an automobile club, dealer, or insurance company, or the towing of an abandoned motor vehicle as defined in 2151 of this title. And I can define that if you all need that defined. B, regulatory authority. This chapter confers exclusive regulatory jurisdiction over towing companies and the provision of towing and storage services to the DMV. Rulemaking, the DMV shall adopt rules pursuant to 3 VSA Chapter 25 for the administration of this chapter, including the assessment of administrative penalties, in addition to those penalties allowed under Section 4316. And complaints, the department shall establish a complaint mechanism for consumers and insurers. That's fairly vague. I would just suggest if you want to keep that, we would maybe want to define what that looks like, because a complaint mechanism can be a piece of paper in their office that you have to fill out. Okay. 4305, emergency towing. It is a misdemeanor. I'm going to stop there for a second because this is problematic. We'd want to probably get rid of the word misdemeanor and just say a towing company shall not, and I'll get to that in a second, and then set the fine later on. There's no actual range here for fines or for imprisonment if you want to do that. So just kind of putting that in your ears or eyes for now.
Did we talk about civil penalties at the top or?
Yeah, not in this bill. And this only applies to this section, so we'd want to keep it in this section, yeah. Prohibitions. It is a misdemeanor for a towing company to stop or cause an individual to stop at the scene of a crash or near a disabled vehicle for the purpose of soliciting an engagement for emergency towing services, either directly or indirectly, unless requested to perform the services by a law enforcement officer or a public agency pursuant to that agency's procedures, or unless summoned to the scene or requested to stop by the owner or operator of a disabled vehicle to provide emergency towing services. Okay. To move a vehicle from a highway when there is an injury as a result of a crash, or to accrue charges for services provided under those circumstances. That is a long sentence. So yeah, if you'd want to make this a fine, then you'd want to add maybe 1A or 1B that says the fine shall be up to $500 per offense.
Do we know the why on this?
I've heard that there are towing companies that are out there scouring the roadways for vehicles, with vehicle accidents and trying to hook onto them.
It seems like especially in inclement weather, it would be beneficial and not harmful to get the car moved out of the way quickly.
And that is addressed here.
It is, okay.
Representative, yeah, they eventually get to that. Part B, selection of towing company. The owner or operator of the vehicle being towed shall summon to the scene the towing company of the owner's or operator's choice in consultation with law enforcement or authorized municipal personnel and designate the location where the vehicle is to be towed.
It doesn't take into consideration someone that's been in an accident.
Well, so we're about to.
One,
The provisions of subdivision 1 of the subsection shall not apply when the owner is incapacitated. Well, I guess either, out or just unable to make decisions. Otherwise unable to summon a tow company or defer to law enforcement or authorize municipal personnel. The authority provided to the owner or operator in that subdivision may be superseded by law enforcement or authorized municipal personnel if the towing company of choice cannot respond to the scene in a timely fashion and the vehicle is a hazard, impedes flow of traffic, or may not legally remain in its location in the opinion of the law enforcement officer or authorized personnel. Subsection C, record of caller. If a towing company is summoned for an emergency tow, the towing company shall record the first name, last name, and telephone number of the individual who summoned it to the scene and the make, model, year, color, VIN number, or VIN, and license plate number of the towed vehicle. If a towing company is summoned for an emergency tow by a law enforcement officer or designee of a public safety agency with jurisdiction, the towing company shall record the identity of the law enforcement officer and the log number, call number, incident number, or dispatch number assigned to the incident. Part D, visual documentation. Prior to towing a vehicle under the section, a towing company shall take photographs, video, or other visual documentation, I'm not sure what that would be, to evidence the location of the vehicle and any damages. Like, could this be your eyes? I don't know.
Yeah,
I would want to maybe not.
sketch.
Yeah, you have your own sketch artist in your police car. Yeah, or I guess in your tow truck. This would be the tow truck company. So I'd want to probably firm that up a little bit. Subsection E, record retention and production. The towing company shall maintain a record of the information described in the subsection C and D and shall retain the information for 3 years. This is kind of repeated throughout, so just kind of keep this in mind here. The towing company shall make the records required to be maintained under subdivision 1 of the subsection available within 48 hours after receipt of a written request from law enforcement or the DMV. And finally, storage. The towing company shall properly secure all towed vehicles and make all reasonable efforts to prevent further damage, weather damage, or theft to all towed vehicles, including the vehicle's cargo and contents. So, and again, if they don't make reasonable efforts to prevent these things, what's the punishment? It's not clear. And if you want to hold them accountable for not doing these reasonable efforts, you might want to use language to say what the consequence would be. Section 4306, private property towing requirements. Establishment of a private towaway zone. The owner of a private property may establish a private towaway zone by posting a sign that is at least 18 inches by 24 inches in size and includes a statement that the property is a towaway zone, a description of persons authorized to park on the property, and the address and telephone number for where towed vehicles are stored. Prohibition and record of caller. A towing company shall not tow a vehicle under this section unless it receives a request for a tow. This is again going towards, I guess, predatory towing companies that are driving looking for cars to tow. The towing company shall record the date, time, and name of the requester.
So does that mean towing company has a contract with apartment building to tow people that aren't supposed to be there? Do they have to get a call every time?
Yeah, it would seem that there needs to be a request more than just a general, these are our watch hours. It would need to be, hey, we have a blue truck that's been there since yesterday that needs to be towed, yeah, something like that. But we can adjust the language.
Yeah, I think this was one that Barbara was like, doesn't have to be that strict, a picture and a contract with clear costs.
It's kind of funny because that's already required in Burlington's ordinance.
But it's still not an issue.
In Barry too, I think.
What if the,
I mean, there's multiple ways that they can do it. They could, you know, the property owner can have tags that are made that you put in your window. They could have temporary tags if you have you know, if your car is being repaired and you have the rental. There's different ways of doing it. It doesn't have to be a call, so. Okay. And then again, that's, you know, another issue with contract between a private property owner and how they want to deal with things.
does this address, if a town has an ordinance, like a snow removal, a snow parking kind of ordinance, or ones that
No, this is on private property.
This is- yeah,
only
this-
private?
This section is private property. Yeah.
I had the header, sorry.
Visual documentation. Prior to towing a vehicle under the section, a towing company shall take photographs, video, or other visual documentation to evidence that the vehicle is clearly parked on private property in violation of a private towaway zone. The towing company shall record the time and date of the photographs, video, or other visual documentation. And again, we have the record retention. They must keep the information for 3 years and make it available within 48 hours upon request of the DMV or police.
That makes. Derek, you just.
There's a legal reason for that.
Right now, there's obviously, there's no requirement. So I don't know where the 3 years came from. That, to my knowledge, that's not required. There might be a statute of limitations issue. If you want to sue the tow company because they damaged your vehicle and, you know, I don't know what Vermont's is, but if the statute of limitations is 2 years, that kind of makes sense. But that to me is what I can think of for that reason. Okay, subsection E, location and storage. A towing company shall ensure that a vehicle towed under the section is taken to a location that is within 25 miles of the location of the private towaway zone. You get you get what it's trying to do. I would maybe not use those words exactly, but you know, within 25 miles. The towing company shall properly secure all towed vehicles and make all reasonable efforts to prevent further damage, weather damage, or theft to all towed vehicles, including the vehicle's cargo and contents.
We talking about is reasonable efforts. I mean, does that mean everything's gonna be undercover? Or do they have to have a huge garage that they have to park these vehicles in, or is it just a outdoor lot that, and do they have
Yeah.
a fence? Do they have to have razor wire over the top to, you know?
What would a reasonable
Yeah.
what would a reasonable tow storage company do? You know, would they build a 20-foot wall? Probably not. Would they make sure the car's locked? Probably. Would they make sure there's cameras, security cameras? Probably. Does it need to be undercover? That's probably not reasonable, right? That would be a very expensive storage requirement.
When you talk about weather damage, it's,
Yeah.
How often do you all get hail?
It happens.
It does?
More recently.
Wow. Texas, we get it a few times a year. We get new roofs every 2 years in Texas because of the hail. That's ridiculous. Okay. I came here to avoid hail
It doesn't.
and tornadoes, right? You don't get tornadoes. I was in tornado
I'm
alley.
in New Hampshire, like, border every once in a while.
I was in Torrado.
Little mini ones.
It's not fun because it happens all of a sudden. Okay, subsection F, release of vehicle prior to towing. If the owner or operator of a vehicle is parked in violation of a private towaway zone and arrives while the vehicle is being removed, the towing company shall give the vehicle owner or operator oral or written notification that the vehicle owner or operator may pay a drop fee for the release of the vehicle. Upon payment of that fee, the towing company shall release the vehicle and give the vehicle owner or operator a receipt showing both the full amount normally assessed and the actual amount received. Subsection G, notice, the towing company shall provide notice of the tow to law enforcement within 2 hours of removing the vehicle from the private towaway zone. Which law enforcement are we talking about? Is it state police? Is it the FBI? So it would leave it open to the towing company, right? They could just say, yeah, we called my buddy down the street who is a police officer. Section 4307, seizure towing. Now, if you remember, seizure towing in the definitions is when a government agency takes a car due to unpaid parking tickets or some kind of legal issue. Evidence is in the car. That could be a reason to seizure tow it. Location and storage. A towing company shall ensure that a vehicle towed under this section is taken to a location that is within 25 miles of the location where it's towed from.
times the seizure towing, if they're storing it for evidence, it's stored in police barrack. So what if that barracks is 30 miles away from the scene that they were picked up?
You'd want to add some kind of note that if it's a police impound, then that would not, apply. Okay.
Around, I think, of what the AG's recommendation was anyway, I believe.
Yeah, this section, yeah. The towing company shall properly secure all towed vehicles and make all reasonable efforts to prevent further damage, weather damage, or theft. Again, same language. And this is also the drop fee. If the owner or operator of the vehicle that is being towed because of unpaid parking tickets arrives while the vehicle is being towed, the towing company shall give the vehicle operator notification that the vehicle owner may pay a drop fee. On payment of the fee, the towing company shall release the vehicle and give the vehicle owner or operator a receipt showing both the full amount normally assessed and the actual amount received. Now, is this drop fee in addition to the unpaid parking ticket fee? I don't think it is, but that's something that you might want to clarify is what,
So, yeah, I mean, if the towing company has a contract with the municipality, then it requires them to pick up vehicles that have unpaid parking tickets. This kind of goes against what contract might be, right?
yeah,
It should supersede the contract.
this would supersede the contract, yeah. Okay, section 4308, estimate requirements. And this applies to all tows in this act. If the owner or operator of a vehicle is present at the time of the tow, the towing company shall furnish the owner or operator of the vehicle with a written itemized estimate of all charges and services to be performed. Subsection B, estimate contents. The estimate required under subsection A of this section shall include the following: the name, address, telephone number, and motor carrier permit number of the towing company, the license plate number of the tow truck, an itemized description and cost for all services, including charges for labor, special equipment, mileage from dispatch to return, and storage fees expressed as a daily rate. Part C, signature required. The towing company shall obtain the vehicle owner's or operator's written or electronic signature on the itemized estimates and shall furnish a copy to the individual. To note there, if the individual is upset about the tow, it's like when you get a ticket, and you don't sign your ticket. It doesn't matter, you didn't sign it because you still got the ticket. Here, if you refuse to sign it, it says the towing company shall obtain your signature. So if they don't obtain your signature, that could be problematic. It just needs to be worded a bit better. If this is something you all want to do, if you want to require some kind of receipt, some kind of signature, I would just probably suggest it be worded differently.
So this has to take place when they're in person. So if somebody drives off the road, needs a tow truck to come out, pull them out. They call the tow truck gets there, and now they've got to negotiate all of this.
Right.
And then, so if they don't like what they want, then they tow the tow truck, then if they don't hire them, then they've gone out there for nothing.
Yeah, I mean,
Payment.
worst case scenario, right? I'm just trying to point out the language
Yeah.
definitely needs to be massaged. I know you made a good point that what if it says if they're present, what if they're unconscious because of an accident? What if they are being taken to the hospital? So it's just another potential issue that not just tow companies, but also people are going to have to handle if it doesn't go right.
Yeah, and I get I mean, you're trying to be transparent. So it may be that when somebody calls you, tow truck operator says, this is what it's gonna cost you. It's gonna, for me to go out there, pick your car up, X amount of dollars, X amount for mileage. If I'm bringing it back and I have to store it, here's my storage fee.
And it could be more simple that you just give them a pre-produced card that shows all your fees on it. However, here, you do have to be fairly specific to this actual tow, because you could be coming from 50 miles away instead of 10 miles away. Do you know, are you going to store it with your company storage or are you going to take it somewhere else to the police department? So it could get complicated. The record retention is the same, 3 years, 48 hours. I'll read it again if I need to. It's the same. Okay, 4309, invoice requirements. All services rendered by a towing company, again, this applies to every tow, including any warranty or zero cost services shall be recorded on an invoice. Each additional service must be set forth individually as a single line item with an explanation and the exact charge for the service. The contents of the invoice shall contain the location for which the vehicle was towed, the storage location of the vehicle, the name, address, and telephone number of the towing company, a description of the vehicle, including the make, model, year, color, VIN, and license plate number of the towed vehicle, the charge for the tow, and the daily storage charge and the number of days the vehicle was stored. Subsection C, record retention and production. Again, so I almost read it like it was brand new. Same thing. 3 years and 48 hours within the request. Notice requirements. Notice required. Within 24 hours after the commencement of towing, the towing company must commence a search of the records of the DMV to ascertain the identity of the owner and any lien holder of the towed vehicle. Written notice shall be given directly to the owner by registered mail within 5 business days after the commencement of towing, and no storage charges beyond the initial 24 hours charge shall accrue until the notice requirement has been met. The contents of the notice shall contain the name, address of the towing company. Again, these are all the same here. Date and time of the tow, the location, the address where the vehicle will be stored, and phone number where the transaction will take place. If either is different from the address and number of the towing company, the name of the tow truck operator, and a description of the vehicle.
So they're supposed to find out who, the name and address of the person that owns the vehicle.
Right.
Plus the lien holder. If there is one, but it doesn't mention anything about the lien holder.
A lot of it's in the glove box, right? For most people, it's gonna be on your, if you have your title or registration, not your title registration in there. A lot of that's gonna be. So, but is it invasive to have them go into the glove box, right? Like, you know, there are questions. I think there's a lot of good in here. I don't wanna get,
No, I agree, but I think it's.
I mean, you know, who know, when you call for a tow, how do you know your VIN number? Is that asking you? No, you know, your license plate, right? And so I'm looking at this and I'm like, practically, when we go through this, make it reasonable and practical, but. Right? That's how I should be thinking about this, yeah. I don't know the number. I don't even know my license plate number. I just have, I mean, I do.
You don't know your VIN number by heart? 735.
One.
It stands on your car. I think on your front door, if you open your front door, there should be like a gold one too.
But if
Or the windshield.
it's towed, right? Yeah.
True.
I mean,
That's why you memorize it.
I have a note on my.
take a picture of
It is smart.
license plate.
Well, it's the.
Picture of my license.
So 4311 is more about not towing, but operating a tow company. Apparently Vermont does not have any requirements to actually operate a tow company, to my knowledge. I could have missed it. But it appears that if you want to operate a tow truck company, you have to get maybe a CDL license to operate the actual tow truck vehicle. But then to actually conduct towing, again, I could be totally way off here. I did not see any, and that's why this is here. I do not see any application you have to file with the state to be a licensed tow truck company. I will be correct.
So I could do it?
If you have a CDL,
Do you need a CDL for that kind of a truck?
I think they're pretty heavy. Yeah, I think it's 26,000 pounds to operate that weight.
Out of mine.
I don't know.
Maybe,
My motorhome is 20,000 pounds and I don't need a CDL.
maybe a flatbed.
I don't
Not a
know.
regular tow truck's not gonna be that heavy.
Yeah, regular Toby Hunt, you might be able to just do it.
Heather,
Look.
you can use your truck and a chain and.
You're good to
I was
go.
wondering.
Third career.
I don't think I should do that.
So this would create a application process for people who want to, or companies that want to operate tow truck companies. So application, the DMV shall approve an application for a towing company license or renewal and issue or renew the license, provided the applicant submits an approvable application on a form prescribed by the DMV and pays a $50 application fee. An application shall include the applicant's workers' compensation coverage. And some of this may say, well, if they don't have that, I guess you would just say no, right, or NA. The applicant's unemployment compensation coverage. Again, if it's just you, then if you are a solo operator, you just NA, I imagine.
Was the Secretary of State brought into any of the creation of this, or OPR?
Before my time, I'm sorry.
Okay,
Representative. Yeah.
feels like we would wanna talk to that,
Well,
if we're looking at something like this, right? Isn't that an OPR?
maybe, well, it's the company, so it could be, I mean, I have a liquor license. They don't ask me if I have workers' comp, and they don't ask me if I have unemployment. Those are law requirements. If you have employees, so I don't know why that would be there, but.
Okay, go ahead.
The financial responsibility of an applicant relating to liability, insurance, or bond requirements. The applicant's standard hours of operation. The applicant's after-hours access policy. The applicant's business address and contact information. The applicant's towing and storage charges, and any other information the DMV may require. The applicant must not have been convicted of fraud or had a civil judgment rendered against it for fraud, nor has any officer, director, or partner of an applicant that is a corporation or partnership during the officer's, director's, or partner's tenure. Subsection B, insurance. The applicant must provide proof of minimum insurance requirements of the following or a sufficient surety bond as determined by the Commissioner of Motor Vehicles. And insurance is totally out of my wheelhouse. This could be a Maria Royal question if you are curious about it. $100,000 for liability for bodily injury or property damage per occurrence. $50,000 of legal liability per occurrence to protect against vehicle damage, including fire and theft, from the time a vehicle comes into custody of a towing company until it is redeemed or sold. Cancellation or failure to maintain the insurance required by subdivision 1 automatically revokes the applicant's license. Subsection C, display. A towing company granted a license or renewal under this section shall prominently display the license, hours of operation, and charges for towing and storage at the towing company's primary place of business and website if one is maintained. License shall be non-assignable and non-transferable and shall be surrendered to the DMV immediately upon the towing company ceasing to do business as a towing company. Okay, 4312. This is maybe more to what the AG mentioned in the report. So maximum charges, subsection A, a towing company shall not charge more than the following rates: $90 per tow or $3.50 per mile towed, $15 per drop fee, $20 per day of storage for any day that the towing company is operating under its standard hours of operation, $25 for access to a towed vehicle for the recovery of personal items outside the towing company's standard hours of operation. Okay. Subsection B, notwithstanding subsection A of the section, charges for towing an abandoned vehicle from public property shall be in accordance with section 2158 of this title, and fees for towing or storing a vehicle pursuant to municipal ordinance shall be established by the municipality in accordance with section 1753. So really quickly here, they're the only one of the few times towing is mentioned in current law is for abandoned vehicles. So a vehicle is abandoned when it's been on private property, I believe, at least 48 hours. And then the owner of the property calls a tow truck company. So we're not really touching that a whole lot. And part B refers to if that's the kind of tow we're referring to, we're going to let that other part of the title handle that part of the towing.
Then what is, if a municipality doesn't have an ordinance, what oversees that?
Well, so you still, this abandoned vehicle is state law. Some municipalities have their own takes on abandoned vehicles. If this is something that you're concerned about, I would need to do more research into it, frankly.
So it must be in 2158 to ask, I wonder if there's anything there. Okay. We can,
Yeah, I think 2158 might be not in this bill. But that is
the underlying statute.
subsection C, no charge shall be made in excess of the estimated price without the prior consent of the owner or operation of the vehicle. So why would a owner consent to a higher rate? I think I may get the intent here, but again, it needs to be maybe reworded if you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rick, I am not an attorney. You are. I'm curious about the maximum charges section real quick before we move on. Does having a detailed amount for access to a towed vehicle for the recovery of personal items outside the towing company's standard hours of operation create some sort of requirement that they must allow access to their towing lot at any time?
You see me raise my eyebrow when I read that.
I
part of
missed it. I missed it. I'm sorry. I missed it.
Yeah, so it at the very least creates that sense of it doesn't say you shall allow them, in
Uh-huh.
after hours. However, this sets a fee for that, so there could be a judge of Vermont that connects the dots and says, yes, you shall be open at midnight. And actually, we're going to get to hours of operation here in a second, which we have a problem with, but
Okay. Thank you.
that's a good question.
Yeah, I mean, because the opposite is if you're only open during business hours and some weekdays and somebody works, then how are they gonna get their?
Well,
car back,
absolutely.
Right, so
Yeah.
there has
How
to
do you-
be something, but yeah.
Mhm, mhm.
Oh, and here we are. 4313, hours of operation. A towing storage lot shall have at minimum the following standard hours of operation: 7 a.m. to 6 p.m. Monday through Friday, exclusive of federal and state holidays, and at least on one weekend day. So, for the state to set opening hours is pretty risky.
I was gonna say, you know, how many private businesses have we told what their operating hours are?
Yeah,
In the contract, it's
have possibly Commerce Clause problem here. You could do it if you were able to tailor it reasonably to consumer protection and say that this is necessary for consumers to be able to get their cars, but it's questionable. I'll just put it that way. And the one weekend day again is also, yeah. Just you can write whatever you want, but as far as if a court's gonna, you know, allow that.
I've noticed we use the word reasonable quite regularly. Can we put something in for reasonable accommodation of, you know, for, you know, procuring a car outside of regular business hours or something along those lines, and then have a fee attached to that?
Well, I think Rev Williams still had a good point of like, if you say it's reasonable, what if the tow storage company doesn't want to be open at 3 a.m.? You know, and they could say, well, I think it's $100 to get me out of bed to go open up my gate. That would be, and maybe that is reasonable, right? But could you force the tow storage company owner to open up at 3 a.m.? That's maybe the question we need to address more so than the rate at this time.
I think that, yeah, I think, I was thinking more of the other side, reasonable to the business.
Right.
Yeah, you know, not so much reasonable to the, so, I mean, because I think one could argue that 3 a.m. might not be reasonable to the business.
Okay. 4314, release a vehicle, methods of payment. A towing company shall release a towed vehicle to the owner or the insurance company representative upon receipt of payment. A towing company shall only release a towed vehicle to the insurance company representative if the owner's insurance company representative presents proof that the towed vehicle is insured with the company, or the owner of the towed vehicle approves release of the towed vehicle to the insurance company representative. The owner of the towed vehicle or the owner of the towed vehicle's insurance company representative. The owner of the towed vehicle. That's not worded correctly, sorry. Shall have the right to inspect the vehicle before accepting its return. Subsection D, a towing company shall accept at a minimum cash, an insurance check, credit card, debit card, certified check, or a money order. This is something that the AG talked about as a recommendation is the tow company should accept methods of payment besides cash. 4315, prohibited acts. It shall be unlawful for a towing company or an individual acting on behalf of a towing company to falsely represent, either expressly or by implication, that the towing company represents or is approved by any private organization that provides emergency road services for disabled motor vehicles. Require an owner or operator of a motor vehicle involved in a crash or breakdown to pre-authorize one or more of the following: more than 24 hours of storage, tear down, or repair work as a condition to providing towing services for the vehicle. Charge more than one towing fee when the owner or operator of the disabled vehicle requests transport of the vehicle to a repair facility owned or operated by the towing company. Operate a towing company or offer towing or storage services without being a towing company licensed by the DMV. So that adds the why to actually apply for the license is because it's unlawful to at this point. Charge more than the maximum fees allowed under the section I just referenced. Submit false or fraudulent information to obtain a towing license or violate any other provision of this chapter. Subsection B, towing companies shall not tow disabled vehicles to a repair facility unless the owner or operator of the disabled vehicle gives written consent before removal of the disabled vehicle. Subsection C, no towing company may refuse to release a vehicle to the owner or the owner's insurer upon tender of full payment of an itemized invoice for all lawful charges made in connection with the towing and storage of the vehicle. No towing company may refuse, including prior payment of fees and release a towed vehicle, the right of physical inspection of the towed vehicle by the owner or the owner's insurer of the recovery, of personal items left in the vehicle during the towing company's standard hours of operation. So that's also something the AG recommended was allow people to get to their cars to get their laptops, their purse, backpack before if they cannot afford, or really even if they could afford, to get their items out of the car. No towing company shall charge storage for any day where release of the towed vehicle or access to the towed vehicle by the owner or insurer is not permitted by the towing company. Penalties and enforcement. The DMV shall have the authority for the inspection of all locations operated by a towing company. The DMV shall investigate any suspected violations and complaints that are filed with the department and take proper and necessary remedial action. Any towing company that submits false or fraudulent information to obtain a towing license shall have its license revoked. Okay, so that's this act, this Consumer Protection Act. There's a few amendments here in other sections I want to reference. This already in statute, defining the abandoned motor vehicle that I referenced a little bit ago. It's a motor vehicle that has been abandoned for more than 48 hours on private property. We are, to this definition, we are saying that a vehicle towed from a private towaway zone, which we established in the act, is not going to be an abandoned vehicle. So if you have a lot that has a towaway sign and someone parks there unauthorized, that's not abandoned. That car is violating this new act. So that car would not be considered an abandoned vehicle just for this purpose.
Is motor vehicle, I assume that's defined in statute somewhere.
Yeah, that's Title 23. It's called motor vehicle. So
Okay.
one of the chapters in Title 23 is, yeah, so it's defined. If not here, let me see. Frankly, can't remember if we defined it here.
My concern was like someone's electric motorcycle or
Yeah.
something being a statute.
Good question. I'll have to get back to you on how Title 23 defines motor vehicle. Yeah.
Thank you.
I'm curious about that too. That was something that came up in the engineer's report with somebody's bike.
Yeah, yeah.
Note that.
I don't know how that, whether it was a motorized bike in that case or the.
They wouldn't have to use the tow hook itself to pull.
No.
Would be.
Yeah.
Generally not.
Yeah.
Most of what the AG talked about was, you had passenger vehicles, which are under 10,000 pounds, and you have commercial vehicles and how those are different tows. They require different equipment, takes more time. You have cargo on a commercial truck. So that was, I think, the main concern on the difference between the two. But certainly we need to figure out, our motorcycles, electric bicycles,
Yeah. Is there a floor?
Right. I imagine they're not motor vehicles, especially bicycles. Imagine even powered bicycles. That's my guess. Okay, then we're in 2152, the authorized removal of abandoned motor vehicles. This is just a stylistic change here, changing him or her to landowner. No substance there. Subsection C is new, the record of caller. So if you have property and someone has parked there for more than 2 days, 48 hours, and you call to have the car removed, the towing service shall record the first name, last name, and telephone number of the individual who summoned it to the scene, and the make, model, year, color, VIN, and license plate number of the towed vehicle. If a towing company is summoned to tow an abandoned motor vehicle by a law enforcement officer, the towing service shall record the identity of the law enforcement officer and the log number, call number, incident number, or dispatch number. Visual documentation. Prior to towing a vehicle into the section, a towing service shall take a photograph, video, or other visual documentation. And the record retention, 3 years, and make records available within 48 hours if requested. Storage, the towing service shall properly secure all towed vehicles and make all reasonable efforts to prevent further damage, weather damage, or theft. This is, I think you see what we're doing here. We're bringing in new language to this old language of abandoned vehicles. More amending in Title 23 for towing fees. For towing an abandoned motor vehicle from private property, a towing service may charge a reasonable fee that is not more than the maximum charge allowed under Section 4312. That's the new fees I laid out for you all. Again, storage charges may not be more than the maximum allowed under the new charges that we've set forward. Rulemaking. Unless extended by the LCAR, the DMV shall adopt rules required under 23 VSA 4304, not later than June 1st, to be effective July 1st, 2024, and the effective date, July 1st, 2024.
How do you promulgate rules before it becomes law?
Well, so again, Anthea wrote this and she is our rulemaking expert. So I imagine she had a reason. I don't know the reason for that. I defer to her on why that was written that way.
Great, thank you. Sure. That's it for today. We're here on the floor, back here at 9 tomorrow. Hopefully we can all make it in tomorrow. We all might get 3 to 6 inches of snow, but.
Oh, wow, really?
Parts of the state are looking great.
We're on blizzards.
Yeah,
Yeah.
starting in an hour or two,
Yeah,
was
it's not supposed to start till.
till later.
Yeah.
When I looked this morning, it said
6 or
starting
7.
around 4 tonight.
Maybe. Yeah. For me, I'm not supposed to be till after 8 o'clock.
Oh, that's good.
The longer it stays over Chittenden County, the less I'm gonna get.